Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the RealNex webinar series. Today, we'll be talking about virtual tours and online tenant representation. I'm Jeff Finn, CEO at RealNex, and joined today by Matthew Smith, Head of National Business Development, and Mike Laird from our virtual reality partner, Pix Virtual. And Chris Sayre won't be joining us, but Mike will have us covered on that side. And a lot of ground to cover. Appreciate your joining us. Want to just give you a quick overview of what we'll be talking about, then turn it over to Matt, who will get us started. So we'll first start with how the RealNex platform can assist you in prospecting for tenants by profiling the tenants and their requirements, tracking lease expirations. If you're in corporate services, managing corporate lease portfolios, at least understanding what the portfolio looks like and the opportunities, and then managing the pursuits to win business, and once won, how to begin the touring process with our tour book application, virtual reality, and a video maker tool to develop tours with your iPhone or Android. Finally, we'll get back into the applications for space rating and evaluation matrix, comparative lease analysis, and the proposal management of our tour book app. So with that, Matt, I will tee you up, turn over the controls, and we'll get into the program. As always, if you have any questions along the way, or there are things that you'd like to have covered in greater detail, chime in the question box, and we'll do our best to address them along the way or at the back end of the session. And of course, the program is being recorded, and we will share it with you and have it for follow-up with any of your team members or just for review at a future date. Matt, take it away.
Awesome, Jeff. Thanks as always. Mike, it's great to have you on here as well with us. We're going to be going through, as Jeff mentioned, the online tenant representation, and some of my favorite things is prospecting for tenants and then creating those tour books. So I'm really excited to be on here. Again, if anybody has any questions, don't wait till the end, just push them through. Jeff and Mike will get to them and then interrupt me as needed. This is all about you. We do this each and every single day. So there's going to be a couple proponents to this. One is going to be RealNex Online, where you can log in and access realnex.com. The second portion that I'm going to talk about, I'm not sure if I'm going to share it. My Wi-Fi has been a little finicky today, so I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to share my mobile app with you, but there is a mobile app for the Android as well as the iPhone that works on tablets as well. And a portion of this is going to be talked about with that. And if I can get my Wi-Fi up and running proper, I'm going to show you the digital tour book app. So one is going to be through realnex.com, and then two of the portions I'm going to talk about are within inside of the app that you can download. And one of the apps is downloadable free for any one of your clients that want to go ahead on tour. So as always, we want to make sure that when you do log into RealNex, you come into what we call the RealNex CRM, which is the orange. We're broken up into 4 main components. Today we're going to focus mainly on the CRM as well as the tour book, but we can also touch base on the property search, and I can kind of show you how that works. Unfortunately, not being able to be on the mobile side and having that is going to make it a little bit more difficult for me. So again, we want to make sure that you're able to access this information. So what's really important to us, right? So we talk about it all the time. We talk about ways to match buyers and sellers and ways to get tenants in space. And you know, I talk to tenant reps all across the world, and they struggle with the same things. And that's just really keeping track of tenant profiles to figure out what needs they have so they can fill that space. And one of the things that we do well in RealNex is we give you those fields and functionality. So here we're in our contact side. We're going to focus mainly on contacts, companies, and a little bit on spaces within our program. We do have an integration into Office 365. Gmail is coming soon. You'll synchronize your contacts, your events, and your emails, including LOIs, lease documents, and so forth. You can also import data from Excel. So if you want to import the complete building stack, you can do so from Excel. We do have data services here. We can help you with that. So if you get data from third-party sources, again, you can do it on your own. We can help you. And then soon coming is the RealNex data. So we're going to be providing data information. However, we're not going to be providing the lease expiry and so forth, but I think we'll be providing some of the tenant information and piercing to some of the owners through their LLC. So I think that's going to help really build that foundation that you then can fill in the blanks with. So what I like to do is I like to pull up my records on each one of my contacts, and we have a section down here called tenants. These are tenants that I am prospecting with. These are not tenants that I currently work with. These are tenants in here where I like to keep track of a few details. Now you can see my screen is highlighted in here, and you can do just the same thing depending on your permissions by simply right-clicking, and then you can change those colors. I would recommend staying away from red and green. Just use some very nice pastel colors and pick a few things. I like to say pick it and stick it. Like lease expiration. What is your client's or your potential client's lease expiration? Is there a certain square footage they're currently leasing? What business type? That's really important. Are they looking to downsize? Are they looking to upsize? Are they looking to add an additional space? Are they looking to move? Maybe why are they looking to move? Do they have an option or any increases that are coming up that they want to not go ahead and execute that option? Or maybe they want to execute the option and you want to be on the call to get the commission, and then any tenant requirements down in here, maybe minimum, maximum square foot. Were they being represented by somebody in the past, or are they currently being represented? You can go ahead and keep track of that. We also added some really cool functionality with the company side of things, and I'll bring you to that here in just one second. But this is a great way to keep track of those tenant requirements. If you watch the video on door knocking, I'll walk you through how to create these beautiful columns that I created for tenant reps to keep track of, current lease expirations that you can sort on, minimum, maximum square feet. And if you hit this edit off, which turns edit on, you can actually update this information in line as you're out prospecting, door knocking, meeting with clients. And with the mobile app, you can do it right there in the field, as well as update any tenant information. Now, as Jeff mentioned from the beginning, we're all going to be working with companies when we do tenant representation. We might have a main person in the company that we deal with, and there's an easy way to track that, especially if you're working corporate services or national services throughout, is a section inside of RealNex called companies. Now, everybody knows what a company is. I mean, we all understand what a company is, and most of you have a company. But what you don't understand maybe is how to organize those companies, and how is that going to help you with your tenant rep pursuits and so forth. Inside of RealNex, we give you some really great options in the ability to keep track of not only the primary company that maybe you're dealing with, but also their alternative locations. I like to organize mine by the area. So Chicago Title, Insurance Company, Southwest Las Vegas. We also have Chicago Title Insurance Company, and then we have a subsidiary. And subsidiary I usually use as the state. So like the city is part of the company, the state is going to be the subsidiary, and then the organization is just the name of the company. Now you can organize your stuff any which way you want. I found out this works best for me. We also have an area in here called primary contact. It's really awesome for landlord and tenant brokers to be able to set a primary contact. To go ahead and set a primary contact, we can just go in here, and I think maybe we'll put our main man Pat Sajak in there. And now we know that the primary contact for Chicago Title is Pat Sajak, which then can hold Pat Sajak's tenant requirements. So it's awesome. We also have the ability to keep track of the complete organization. Who's a primary contact at each one of those locations? So Tim is a primary contact in California, Pat's for Nevada, and then Nancy is this national sales rep there as well, so we can keep track of that. And then the complete footprint, we'll be able to keep track of that. So
let me just interrupt a second there, because I think it's important to understand the what happens with that primary contact. It associates that contact across the board for different property leases and ownership without having to re-enter it time after time. And what's important, a lot of times people in the past were using a contact to associate with those properties or spaces, but it really is the company that controls those assets. And if that person leaves, then you were disassociating, unfortunately, the proper ownership. So when a new person comes in to replace Pat, and maybe Mike comes in to replace Pat, all you need to do is enter Mike in once, and then Mike goes across the portfolio to connect with all of those properties and spaces. So it's really a powerful tool to make sure that you're looking at ownership of property and control of spaces through the company, and associating the primary contact in that way to make sure that you're as a person moves from job to job, you're not having corrupt data down the road.
Yeah, and to Jeff's point, that's such a powerful thing, because we've seen in other systems, and this is why it was created this way, where you have a client that leaves, it's connected to the client itself. There's 10 other people. Now they have a new address, they move, they have somebody else different, and what do you do? And they spend, hours a week updating that information. In RealNex, it's a couple clicks to change it from Pat to Antonio or anybody else. And again, to add additional space, it's as easy as linking that additional space by selecting that property where that space is, and it's going to be right here. We add the additional floor and suite, and now we can put in there so forth information. You can see it's auto linking to the company and Pat as that primary contact, so we know who that tenant contact is. That is also going to help keep track of our building portfolios and our tenant stack when we're out in the field and we're getting to know the different tenants that are out there, and we start to know that. As Jeff mentioned, it's nice to be able to know that information in that stack, but then also, like I said, here in Pat's company here, we can go to this property. You're also going to be able to see who that primary contact is. When you're calling for that renewal, you can see it all on that same screen. So now we can see Pat Sajak right here. I can click the dial and I can call Pat. I don't have to go into Chicago Title and say, well, who at Chicago Title do I need to talk to? And it's all through seamless click on there. We can also set up beautiful timelines. So when we go ahead and we do get a new lease and we want to go ahead and we want to create a timeline, we can create a nice little series of events. That can be done right inside of the event side here. And that'll allow us to start keeping track of those lease expirations. So sometimes we're going to go ahead and we're going to create just a lease expiration or an option reminder. That'll go in our Outlook. But another way to do it is like my 5-year lease renewal here. I have a 5-year lease renewal, and on year 1, year 2, and year 3, it's going to notify me that there's an anniversary and I'm going to make a phone call. In year 3, we know there's an option, so we're going to talk about the renewal options as well and set that meeting up. So you can create these timelines, and with one lickety-split click there, and then finish it off, it created a nice little timeline Gantt chart for us. And now I can hit close, and it's going to set that series of events and motions. So now I can go on and I can start prospecting and keeping track of more tenant requirements, any company space portfolio opportunities, and managing those opportunities and pursuits without worrying about losing the commission on those renewals, or if they decide to downsize, expand, or anything else. I have all that information in there. And that information is going to populate right inside of your dashboard. So it'll notify you when those lease expiries come up, and it's going to tell you, hey, you have a lease expiry coming up in a week, a day, a month, whatever it would be. And then you have the ability to send these beautiful emails out and so forth with the RealNex program. You also have the ability to manage opportunities and pursuits within inside of RealNex. That's a great way to be able to do those pursuits. I like to create a project, and I like to call it tenant pursuits. So within RealNex, we can create a simple project. In there, these are all the companies that I am going and talking to. So these are going to be tenant rep assignment pursuits or tenant pitches. Jeff also likes to keep track of what stuff is going on in the market and who's leasing what and where. So he creates another project to keep track of, what's happening in his area, his local area. So he has 2 projects. I have 1. Again, what's good for the goose is sometimes good for the gander. So I might add that to mine, but this is a great way that we can start keeping track of the companies that we're trying to pitch to win assignments. And then obviously when we win assignments, we can keep track of that. But one of the things that really go into winning an assignment is, like, how do we get that information? And is there a way that we can do that on scale, that I can go out, and if I'm prospecting with tenants, is there a way that I can get more than just one pitch in here? Matt, I have these tenants in my system, in my Excel. How do I get access to them? One of the really neat features with RealNex Real Campaigns as we've had recently is the ability to merge fields. So when it comes to prospecting for tenants, as you're starting to build those tenant profiles and requirements, and you're tracking those lease expirations and your space portfolio for companies, you are actually building a machine in order to start prospecting, like a lean, mean prospecting machine. Like, dear David, I want to notify your upcoming lease expiration on 1/1 of 2020. You're looking between 40 and 45,000 square feet. That's fantastic. It's going to track your opens, your clicks, and opt-outs. And now we have a way to email them and to really scale into how we're going to start talking to those tenants. But if we didn't get that initial information and we didn't have a place to keep it properly, then we wouldn't be able to do any of that stuff. So this is a great way to be able to, again, keep track of that information as well, the primary contact in the companies and so forth. But now when we do get an opportunity, as I mentioned here earlier, we keep that in seller pursuits, or we keep this in tenant pursuits in this case. Now we want to go out and we want to create a tour. So how do we do that? Well, a couple things. One is you can use RealNex Marketplace to build your surveys as well as look for available space. You click on RealNex Marketplace, you type in for lease, you select your property type and preferences here, you select your state and region, and again, that can start building up your watch list and save searches and so forth. And we can even do this right now if you want. We'll go through here and we'll say, we'll go through office, and then maybe we'll pick, Florida sounds pretty good. That's where Jeff's at right now. So we'll pick Florida. And you can put any other criteria like what is the square foot per month or space size. And now you can start building some of your surveys, and you can start seeing what properties that are out there on market. You can start creating these beautiful watch lists. So if you wanted to tag these properties in here for maybe there's properties that you're looking to just keep track of in the market and you want to see what the lease rates are, you can add a nice little watch list for like lease comps on market. Or if you have a client in here for their long list, you can keep track of that. Or again, you can keep track of that information for a survey. So don't overlook the RealNex Marketplace. I know we weren't prepped to talk about that today, but I really wanted to hit home as more and more availabilities come on market. You do have access to that RealNex Marketplace, and make sure you create those watch lists. Maybe we'll do a separate presentation just on those watch lists. So now we've gone through and we created our tenant profiles. We emailed our clients, and we're starting to get clients to return calls back to us and let us know they do have space requirements and they're looking for space X, Y, and Z. We went to RealNex Marketplace and we found a list of 20 or 30 properties that we have in our long list. Through the watch list, we're able to narrow that down and make it into a short list. But how do we really present that in a fashionable way? As you click this hamburger, you're going to be able to come into the tour book and deal management system of RealNex. Now, this is phenomenal. Now, I want you to remember that this creates a digital tour book. So after you get the assignment, you can tour, but did you know you can use this to win an assignment? Right, so what I mean by that is you can create an email campaign right after this meeting. Don't do it now, watch this meeting. But after this meeting and say, hey, by the way, I just want to make sure that your tenants are getting the proper, tours and negotiations and everything. If your tenant rep isn't using this, RealNex tour book, come talk to me. That's a great email maybe you want to send out to everybody and let them know that you have a digitized tour book that has ratings and so forth. And you'll see that here in a second. To create a tour, this one I created for a company in New Zealand, and it took me 15 minutes to create. 15 minutes, and super cool, because if we find out one of these spaces leased, I can change it. If we can't tour the space today, I can move it. And it really showcases that you're in your game, and you're able to not only have this beautiful app your client can download that's free to them, you can tour with multiple people, but you're also taking the client's needs of what do they really need. And with that, you can drag and drop photos. You can take photos in the field when you're in there. You can use these custom fields like parking ratio and flex and so forth, contiguous space. Customize these fields to the client's needs so you can show them what's important to them. Any tour notes can be live, so they're taken out there. So instead of writing them down on your piece of paper as a tour, that's private to them, they can share this with you, so you can help take that short list and get it down to 1 or 2 spaces. You also can take in the ratings. So this has been really important because nobody likes to work with someone that doesn't ask them questions about, what are their needs. So what are their needs? Is it location, access, parking? Is it dock height? Is it rent? What is important to your client? And you can customize these areas in here that's going to be important to your client. And then your client has the ability to come in here and rate. That's going to help you shortlist, I think, up to like 75% quicker. And then you're going to be able to keep track of all your proposals right in the system with a beautiful mobile app. It is available for the Android as well as the Apple. And let me show you one that is completely built out. Jeff did a great job on this tour here. Here's 3 spaces we're touring. You can see here I color coded them. One is 2 of them are in salmon. The other one is green. Green's the one that we feel is best. You can see the ratings here is a 9.0, an 8.0, and a 7.9. We also have a section here called archived. So what's nice about that is instead of showing your client 15 spaces and them saying, hey, Mike, what about, space 25 that we went to, or 15 or 12 or 6 or 3, and going back to the same space over and over again, you can just archive it and out of sight, out of mind. You're also able, again, to keep track of all those notes, but then also be able to keep track of the responses. So here is the response from the landlord, here's a response from the tenant, and so forth, and keep track of that. And then we have the ability to compare and contrast those. So now we can see what those look like as we have this. So we have in their structure, it's full service. Here's our rent per square foot, here's our term, and now we can compare those proposals to figure out how much money we're able to save our client. And then if we wanted to compare those proposals against the spaces that we shortlisted, we can easily do that within inside of the program by simply selecting those properties there. And now we can go ahead and we can compare. And now we can see what these spaces are like here. Export it to Excel if you want. And then if we want to compare these proposals, I can come over here and say compare proposals. And now it's going to give you a very simplified lease analysis. So again, Tourbook app is great. To add a property or anybody else to the tour, you just hit edit in that tour. Since Jeff made this one, I'm not able to change that tour, but I can go in here and I can edit. Down here, I can add as many people to the tour as I want to. I can add a building in here if it's not already found. So a lot of the building inventory is in here, but if it's not, you can simply add a building. And to add a building, it's probably only going to take you about 1 minute to 2 minutes as it pulls that information from Google addressing and stuff into there. So that's a great way to use our Tourbook app. But one of the things that everybody's talking about when they talk about technology and everything is now we have this beautiful Tourbook, we have these clients, but some of our clients need to start visualizing some of the information. And how do they visualize a space that is vacant? Or maybe there's something in there right now that they can't visualize it as maybe healthcare, but it's a vacant floor plate, or maybe it was before it was a different kind of shop. Mike will be able to talk to you a little bit more about how you can use virtual reality in the tenant representation and your virtual tours, as well as for landlord representation, on ways to create test fits and to virtualize that space. Mike, are you ready to kind of jump in here a little bit?
Certainly.
So let's turn this over to Mike. He's pretty fantastic on this. I've learned a lot and I've got to see a lot. And I wasn't the biggest believer in virtual reality until I met Mike about 7 years ago. And Mike showed me some examples, and I was just like, I get it. I get how you can be interactive now and you become part of it. So I'll stop talking and I'll let you go, Mike, and show them what you showed me.
Sure. So this example is a building that had a 12,000 square foot gym pre-COVID. They closed their doors early into the pandemic. And the clients wanted to show this property 3 different ways. One was vacant, as you can see here, for potential retail use, and depict it with the most space available, taking out all of the locker rooms and all the amenities that are already in there currently. So all the gym equipment was taken out, but it still looks like a gym. So we're able to depict it this way to target one target market. The second space here is for a medical clinic. So the same building, same upper floor. And what we did is worked with the client because they didn't have a client in mind, so they didn't have a floor plan. And we worked with them and came up with this design. And you can see there's the elevator here. This is the main entranceway, and you'll see that we actually come into the reception area. We have the exam room, some doctor's offices, conference rooms, such like that. And I'm going to drop into the reception area. So we're going to walk in from the hallway this way, and we can have video playing. It could be marketing information or anything specific about the site. We can also link to a lot of information, which we'll show in another demonstration. But one thing that this allows you to do is start using this also for pre-leasing and pre-selling, because we can actually visualize things that don't yet exist. So in terms of the test fit case here, we're showing what the space could look like and function as, even though we didn't have a specific client in mind. This third layout for this space was for a high-tech office. And so they had somebody come up with a schematic design and some photographs of some other office spaces that were a little bit unique, but not too crazy in terms of the look and feel. And we'll come up to the floor plan here. You can see that here's the same elevator and entrance area. The reception area for the medical center was here. We set up this one to come in on the opposite axis here. So I'm going to drop into this area. And one of the key areas, aspects of this is, again, keep in mind, we're able to freely walk around, but also with our VR tours, if we wanted to make websites, brochures, if you're using Market Edge to do your online marketing, then we can just hit the P key on my keyboard, and I can have unlimited rendering. So I just made a rendering of that view of the scene. I can step in here and say, well, I want to show the break room area here, and just simply navigate, choose a spot, hit the P key on my keyboard again, and now have another rendering. So you can make unlimited renderings for your marketing materials. So this one asset of the 3D model and the VR tour actually is typically at the cost of maybe 2 or 3 renderings, but you end up getting unlimited renderings and the ability to distribute this. This is again running in a web page. So you can embed this in your listing page, put it as a tag in Marketplace, and it's automatically activated in the brochures and the listing pages. And so this is just one way of showing multiple layouts for the same space. And it's kind of hard to imagine this space just by looking at floor plans and maybe 1 or 2 renderings. You actually get a feel for what this will be like.
I know, like when you originally did this, it was for the landlord showing the space in different ways. But think about it as for this audience, as tenant reps and tenant rep focused, as they are looking at a space like this in this building. If it were a ill-configured for the new use, you could reimagine it for the client and do that same build out for them to show it based on that client's specifications. So I think that's how we should be thinking about this scenario, even though it was originally done in on the other side. So doing this for a tenant to specify based on their specifications, like again, if a medical office client you're running with and representing them, to show how this space would conform to their needs going forward, and they can imagine themselves in the space of their branding, their look and feel, their layout.
Definitely. This next scene actually will go here for industrial. This was created for CRG. We were given just a site plan and a rendering of a similar building, and then we created this 3D tour of this particular site. And in the process, they actually found, by visually walking through the tour, there are some elements of the site design that were intended to be given to the client, but their financial proposal did not include those aspects. So there would have been a huge loss of revenue had they pitched the proposal the way it was priced. So one of the things we can do in the 3D scene is we can change out the materials. And so we can dynamically change things out, in this case, changing those panels to glass. We can also link to Google Maps, as well as the listing page. So anything that's web hosted, we can link to and integrate. And so other things that we can do is do some cutaway views to drop inside. And in this case, it was important for them to show some key aspects of this design of this warehouse. For example, the fire sprinklers have independent sensors on every sprinkler. So each sprinkler is independently triggered based upon the intensity of the fire. So it very minimizes the water damage. The lights, for example, are highly energy efficient LEDs to replace the metal halide style lights. And then the warehouse doors are highly insulated because this was a Central California location, kind of a desert arid environment. And so that was another aspect. So we can link to embed any type of marketing materials, data, or actually in that web page for that light, we can actually order replacement parts from here. So the 3D scene becomes an interface to anything that's relevant. So it gets to the approach of being a digital twin at that point, linking to actual data about the real facility or real property. And one of the things we can do is rebrand locations. So in this case, this is a very open layout for this office space within the warehouse, but we can certainly have the client logo and have this laid out and rebranded to pitch it to a particular tenant very easily. This third example is of an office space. It's of a floor plate of about 24,000 square feet. And we did this space two ways. One was an open layout, and then another for kind of a high-tech office, and second was a closed office layout, which this is what we're showing here. And we can see outside and the views from this point from photographs taken from the building itself. And so we have an accurate depiction of what it's like to be in this property. And it was just a pure open slab. Previous tenant moved out, all the flooring was stripped, the ceiling panels were taken out, and it was just bare bones at the time that we did this for them to be able to show it to potential tenants. Jeff, Matt, is there anything else you want me to show? I wasn't sure of time frame. Anything else in terms of topics or demonstrations?
No, I think that's great. I mean, one of the advantages of the 3D model is that you can, on the fly, basically, with the team, change the look and feel. You can knock down walls, move walls, re-demise it based on a client specification or changing specification. So in that tenant rep mode, you can make sure that you've got something that will work. And particularly if you've got people all over the world in a decision-making mode that can't easily access the space, you can bring them in and give them a self-guided tour or take a tour like this with your client, where you can walk with them through the space and engage in a discussion while you're there or while you're online together.
Yeah, and then you can add a link to this document right in the tour book app and then keep notes in there as well. So again, it just becomes completely interactive all in one solution there. Mike, this is always great to see, and I'm just mesmerized how the detail gets more and more. And you don't need to use a mainframe computer. You can even do this on your phone or your iPad. Obviously, your iPad's probably a little bit better than a phone, but you don't need a crazy powerful machine to do that. So while we're on the topic of tour books and virtual reality and really showing, I'm going to play this video once again. One of my favorite people in the world has created this. He is now using a stabilizer, if anybody wants to know, to do those videos, or I hope so. If not, I do owe you one when you come down here in San Diego. But this is a great way to create branded tour books. I had a phone with a client and another sales associate here in RealNex, and they said, look, I looked at their marketing and it's great, but there's no consistency throughout it. And with RealNex, we can keep that brand consistency from the tour books to the virtual reality to the video maker to the packaging with all that correct branding. Whether you're a team of one or a team of 100 million, we can do that. And the video tour makers, fantastic for anybody that's not tech savvy. You can create these beautiful tours of a space, and I think it's just a great way to get out there. But not only about the space, like for the tenant rep side. Well, Matt, I'm not leasing the space. I'm the tenant rep. Great. You can create these beautiful, why do business with me broker profiles within the same RealNex video maker. So if you're doing a little bit of tenant rep and landlord rep, I think a lot of folks are doing 50-50 tenant rep and landlord rep. If you're complete tenant rep, again, you can use it for broker profiles, testimonials. We use it here for RealNex testimonials that Jeff collects and puts up on our website. So it's a great way to utilize that. Again, get RealNex Video Maker, get the Tourbook app, and tell your client, hey, download this new Tourbook app. This is what I'm doing. Take a look at some of my testimonials. Here's a quick video, and it's branding for your company right there. So it's a great way. So let's watch this real quick.
I'm Guy Livingston, and welcome to Pinnacle Square. 33,000 square foot, single story, concrete tilt office building located in West Boise on the Emerald Street office corridor. Let's take a look at Suite 110, fronting Emerald.
So those transitions and the information like Suite 110 and the logo, all that is done in a templated video maker app that you can download. So it's not something that he has to go on and edit. This is something that as soon as you're done with it, it's ready for prime time and go right up to YouTube and get that link out there.
Street, and consisting of approximately 1,600 square feet in an open workstation configuration. This suite was recently remodeled with new carpet, paint, breaker.
If you're a landlord broker and you want
Just thinking about, Matt, as a tenant rep, you'd think about it as, maybe you've got a remote client or someone that you want to have the ability to share information about various alternatives. You can take the video tour of 3 or 5 or whatever number of alternate spaces there are, and then in addition to the tour book, you'd have the tour book with the video component to it. So each space would be, again, tailored to, and the message tailored right to that client. You do the narration, the voiceover, and the profiling the space within the app, and it all comes packaged with your colors and branding. Or you could actually brand it for the client if you'd like. So you have the ability to really create a professional packaging with user-generated content, which is
it's fantastic. And then also, if you're coming across as a landlord broker, if you ever need tenant improvements done, Mike can definitely take care of your tenant improvements all virtually.
Area and internal bathrooms with additional lighting.
So some of those attributes the client said is, it'd be great to be able to have internal bathrooms because we have external bathrooms. It's something we'd like to see. Now, Guy is able to showcase the internal bathrooms on there that they wanted. They also wanted to have easy freeway access. Well, here's something again to show why that space would make sense to the client there, like Jeff mentioned.
Area. Break rooms. And bathrooms. Suite was remodeled completely with new carpet tiles, new lighting, and painting. It is available for immediate occupancy. Adjacent to the suite.
So Matt, we can now move to the reporting and the analysis.
Yeah, so a couple things that you can do is you can create tour reports as well. So if we want to create a nice little tour report, we can go ahead and do that right inside of this program. I just say tour report, and it's going to go ahead and email a nice little tour report, and I'll pull that up here in a second so we can get that tour report. We also have the analysis side inside of RealNex where we can do a simple analysis, or we can go ahead and we can create a nice packaged, more of a detailed analysis on those spaces as we're working with those clients to figure out what spaces would work for them. And then we're going to be able to get the summary of the analysis, but any of this lease data is going to be customizable with inside of here. So if we want to have our gross rent and then we want to have the escalations, we can have escalation increases over a percentage, or we can have a start month as well. So if we wanted to go over and change those escalations for every month, we can escalate it every month and decide what that escalator is going to be. maybe you're going to have 6 months free rent, and then it's going to escalate up in 6 months. You can always have those escalations start. Operating expenses, you can see here I have it twice. That is just to show you that you can go ahead and change those operating expenses around, and you can add what you want in there, as well as other commissions, improvements, fees. That's going to give you a nice summary of your analysis, and we also have the actuals versus variance. And you can come down here and we can start to see, what is our build out costs? What is the initial balance, right, of use asset, lease liability, or annual net effective and present value? So again, it's going to help us determine those factors of what space we want to work on. These cover sheets can be branded for your company. So really easy to brand those for your company. These are some expanding requirements. And again, we'll get a summary, cash flow summary, and you can decide what you want in here, whether it's going to be a lease schedule in there. And this information is all going to be branded, and then it's easily emailed, e-published, and then previewed. And then again, you can share that inside of the tour book if you're not using the tour book lease comparative analysis portion in there. Within the project section of RealNex CRM, if you want to start keeping track of activity on there for your clients, I'm starting to see some more tenant reps as they're working with different clients, or keeping track of what tenant brokers or landlord brokers they're working with, and what's going on with each one of those deals and where they're at with those deals. You do have the complete capabilities of tracking, potential space planning, due diligence, all your history and activities, and you can even start generating a report out of there to show the client all your activity and what you're trying to do to find spaces for them, alongside with the tour report that you're going to get generated out of RealNex tour app, and you'll see that here in just 1 second when I bring that up. So here's a nice little tour report on those spaces that we're touring. We can start seeing those scores. We can see all those images. They put it all in branding. This can be branded directly for your company. So it'd be with your company information on there. And then it takes a property description and building feature and amenities. And now it starts to build that beautiful tour report. And again, if these are just drag and drop, it's just going to form fit it in there. There's your tour notes. And then these are all drag and drop flyers in there. Detailed information on it. And again, that's going to give you a beautiful tour report, as well as the ability to keep track of your tenant assignments, what spaces you're touring with those tenants, where you're at, any LOIs or anything else that you want to. There's my letter of intent. There's my lease documents that you have access to. So you don't need to use programs like SharePoint or Dropbox or Box. You can just utilize this program. We even can set permissions on here. So if you want Team Everyone, so everybody can view it, or, because there's lease documents or commission agreements, you only want your team, or you want it to be private to you, you have the capabilities of keeping that information private for you as well. But it will allow you to keep track of that whole space rating and comparative analysis, and then proposal management, so you can keep track of where you're at with each proposal, with each lease, so you can make sure you represent the client in the best you can, as well as any commissions that are on that lease and any other details you wanted to keep track of.
Hey, Matt, you may have jumped over it, but in the tour book app, we have the ability to be online and give the client either through the mobile app or the website access to all of this information. And just to be clear, even while the module on the web is the menu is tour book, it's actually called the transaction manager. So when you go to the look for the app online in the Apple Store or Google, look for RealNex Transaction Manager. That's the name of the application. But what you didn't do is show that this can also drive your hard copy if you want to use hard copy to create the tour book. And if you have clients that still want print or a PDF of the file, all of this information gets consolidated and put into a book for their tour if they don't want to use the application.
Yeah, that's great points. And I really wish I could show you. I'm clicking on my Wi-Fi to connect to it, and it's just literally coming up with a blank gray screen and not showing any Wi-Fi networks that are available. So I'm not sure what's wrong with my mainframe. I've been having some issues with my internet all day today, but it's a great way to be able to see that information. And correct me if I'm wrong, Jeff, if you're in a larger office or you do a little bit of landlord and tenant rep, these are talking to each other now. Is that correct? So like if I claim one of the buildings, I can see when folks are touring in there. Is that?
Yeah, well, that's the other side. We'll talk about that when we're talking about the leasing agency side. I was hoping you'd be able to bring up the tour book. And so if you just would go back to the tour and then show how you create the tour book, not just, again, we have the mobile app for display, but just by clicking on tour book, you're then going to be sent a copy of the book, which you can share with your clients.
Yeah, and I'll pull that up in 1 second. The reason I was saying that is because I know some of you that are on this call here today are, you do landlord brokerage as well. So if you do have landlord deals in there and you do claim them and someone does create a tour, it'll spit out in there. I haven't received that tour book yet, but I will here in just 1 minute. Like I said, I'm having some internet connectivity problems here. I keep trying to switch to a Wi-Fi and it's not allowing me to do so. So I'm not going to be able to.
While you're waiting for that, there's a question which I answered, but it may be helpful for the rest of the group. It was a question about when would you use recurring events versus timelines? And the value of timelines is when you have all different types of events that you need to stitch together, and then different people are responsible for them at different intervals and in different sequences and with different durations, so that you can say, on day one, I'm going to pursue go on the tour. Day 3, I'll do a follow-up, and then we'll do comparative analysis. Then we'll do something else. When you're looking at things like just trying to track a lease expiration, and it's a 5-year lease, and you want to send an anniversary note, like, you could very easily just use a recurring event and say, every year for the next 5 years, I want to send a note saying, thank you very much for your business. Look forward to working with you when it comes time for renewal. The timeline would be something like 18 months before the lease expires. You're going to want to call the client and set a meeting. You're going to want to give them, maybe it's 15 months out, do a survey of the market. You want to give them an update on market trends and conditions. And then, 12 months out, you're going to start to look, and things that you're going to do in a series to trigger and fulfill a process. So it's a little bit different when you would use a recurring event versus when you use a timeline.
Now, I don't like reoccurring events. I love the timelines because I put a little script in here to remind me of what to say on each one of these. So that's one of the reasons I like the timelines versus the reoccurring events. That would be another benefit, especially if you have different folks on your team that do different things. But I know in year 1, this is what I typically say. I know in year 2, this is typically what I say. I know in year 3, this is typically what I say to remind me about things, so I'm not repeating it over and over again. And we found out that timelines work better for that than the reoccurring events. Reoccurring events I use for birthdays and stuff, but again, some like coffee, some like tea. Use what works best for you. So now we'll see that tour book because the client really doesn't want to download any mobile app. Now we can go ahead and we can see this would be branded with your colors and your company. Here is the major account that you're working for. This would be your client's name. Nice little table of contents. You can see that map here again, map overview. Here are the 3 spaces. We're going to go tour. You can see those all on a map there on the right-hand side that are color-coded. And then you're going to see our tour locations, details about the space like sprinklers, custom field, any notes, taxes, insurance, cams, dock height, drive-in, clear height. And then each one's going to be broken up just like this. This is a great way as well. Again, I like the digital one because I know that when you're creating these tours, you get a call, 10 minutes later, a day later that, hey, I messed up on the square footage. It's only, 1,800 square feet and the rent's actually, $345 a square foot. You can update that and it updates your client's mobile app instantaneously versus, your briefcase and hard copy mailers or hard copy PDFs. But you can do either or, whatever works best for you. And you might find clients that just like to have that option. So you can see that where that's at. Jeff, anything else we want to kind of go over here today? I know we're
just
running
leave it open for another minute for questions, and otherwise we are, I think, good to go. I think as far as I know, you covered everything, Matt, that we needed to today.
What we should do is, Jeff, you and I, once I get the Wi-Fi fixed, let's do another one just on Tourbook, and we'll do a Tourbook one. Maybe we'll have it up in the next week or two. I'll do one just on Tourbook for everybody that wasn't able to see the app, and I'll go through the tour, and then I'll show you what it looks like on the app, and then I'll do a quick comparison for you. So I'll have something in the next week or two up for everybody so they can see what it looks like in the app. I'll also do a quick one with the RealNex mobile app, so I can show you how to update some of those tenant requirements from that. So I'll do another one just on the apps for everybody, because again, my Wi-Fi is just a little finicky, and the only way I can share my screen is with Wi-Fi in the mobile app. I can't connect directly to my mainframe PC here.
And just remember, everyone, there are two apps. There's the CRM app, so just do RealNex CRM, and the other is the transaction manager for the tour book. So,
yeah, and there's no cost to your clients either. So if you want to have your clients download, there's 5 people on there. Brant, I want to hear how you use this app. Cheryl used it to win 2 deals, so you should talk to her on our next call. She won 2 deals over major competitors of hers using the Tourbook app, and it's great. She is a true animal when it comes to this, and watching her win these deals. I was just talking to a client last week, and they said, yeah, she's knocking them down out there, and she's using the RealNex program and taking advantage of these technology tools, and she's putting tours together in 15 to 30 minutes when it takes upwards of 48 hours sometimes to get them back from your marketing department. So these are some great things here for you. We'd love to have any feedback on future webinars you'd like to have, or future ideas or things that you want us to focus on. These are all about you, not about us. So we want to make sure that we can talk you through these things. And if you have a great case study or use case, I know Guy mentioned something on our last presentation. He won a giant multi-million-dollar deal using our program. We'd love to hear about that as well. Hear your success stories so we can share them with other folks, so we can all make money, because no one wants it.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. Next week, we'll be talking about investment sales and the accelerated marketing processes with the RealNex platform, showing how to underwrite deals, package them, use the deal room, and e-marketing campaigns to drive traffic and run a comprehensive sales process. So if you, in addition to your tenant rep work, you're doing investment sales, come on back. Otherwise, we will see you at the future session that's most appropriate for you. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Have a good day.